All right, let's talk about something that's usually out of sight, out of mind, until it stops working, right? I'm talking about your home's HVAC system. We're going to dig into the invisible forces that are waging a constant war on your home's comfort, day in and day out.
So, I want to kick things off with a question that honestly sounds a little crazy. Is perfect weather secretly killing your air conditioner? Yeah, I know, it sounds totally backward, but trust me, the answer is probably going to surprise you. And that question leads us right into our first big idea here, what I like to call the perfect weather myth. You know, we all have this dream of living somewhere with that perfect, mild, beautiful climate. But here's the thing. For the actual machines that keep our homes comfortable, that perfect weather can actually be a silent killer.
I mean, check this out. There's a great quote that says, "San Diego's mild Mediterranean climate fools many homeowners into thinking their HVAC system has an easy job. The reality is more complex." And that right there, that's the exact misconception we are going to tear apart today.
So here's the bottom line. It doesn't matter how perfect your climate seems. Every single one wages this kind of hidden war on your HVAC system. It's this constant, nonstop battle against the elements, even on what you'd call a beautiful, sunny day.
Okay, so to really get what this war looks like, we need a battlefield, right? So let's dive into a tale of two very different climates, and we're going to use San Diego as our case study. It's actually perfect for this. And get this, you've got two completely different battlefronts happening just miles apart from each other. So on one side, you have homes right on the coast that are just constantly fighting this corrosive, salty air. But then you go a little inland, and those homes, they're under siege from totally relentless heat. Two completely different enemies, all within the same area. It's wild.
So let's break down that first enemy, the salt air. If you've ever lived near the ocean, you know what I'm talking about. That salty mist is just relentless. It's constantly attacking your outdoor unit, it's eating away at the condenser coils, it's damaging all the sensitive electrical connections, and it can cause things like sudden refrigerant leaks or, worst case scenario, a catastrophic compressor failure. Okay, now let's flip to the other side, that inland enemy. Just pure, extreme heat. I mean, think about it. During a heat wave, some of these systems are forced to run for 12+ hours a day. Can you even imagine the strain? This non-stop work just burns out critical parts. We're talking capacitors, contactors. It pushes fan motors way past their limits. And those huge temperature swings from day to night, they can literally stress and crack your ductwork, which just bleeds energy and money. Okay, so we know the bad guys, right? Salt and heat. But how do you know if your system is actually losing the fight? Well, let's talk about the warning signs you should be listening for. First things first, here's a question for you. Think about your AC. Does it ever kick on, run for just a handful of minutes, and then just shut right back off? Like maybe less than 10 minutes? If that sounds familiar, what you're seeing is something called short cycling. And listen, this is not just some weird little quirk your system has. It is a massive red flag. It means some component is probably failing, and it's forcing the whole system into a safety shutdown. It wastes a ton of energy, and even worse, that constant on-off motion can just absolutely destroy the compressor, which is the heart of the whole thing.
Okay, here's another one. What about noises? Do you ever hear weird sounds coming from that big box outside? You know, things like a grinding noise, or a high-pitched squeal, or even a loud bang. Listen, those aren't just annoying background sounds. You gotta think of them as cries for help from your machine. That grinding and squealing, that is literally the sound of motors and compressors on the verge of dying. And if you ignore those sounds, you're basically guaranteeing that a small, cheap repair is gonna turn into a massive, expensive replacement.
All right, enough doom and gloom, right? Let's talk about what you can actually do about it. Let's get into what we're calling the homeowners fix-it formula. This is all about giving you the tools to make smart, money-saving decisions. First thing you need is a baseline, a good benchmark. So a typical HVAC system, if it's well maintained, is going to last somewhere between 12 and 20 years. So my question to you is, how old is your system? Just knowing that number is step one for everything else we're about to talk about. Okay, now for a really handy tool. It's something called the $5,000 AC rule. It's this super simple but really powerful calculation that helps you figure out that big question. Should I repair this thing again, or is it finally time to replace it? Let me show you how it works. It is so easy. You take the cost of the repair you're looking at. Let's just say it's $400. Then you take the age of your system. We'll use 15 years for our example. Now just multiply those two numbers together. So 400 times 15, that's 6,000. Since 6,000 is more than 5,000, the rule is pretty clear. It's probably time to start looking at a new system.
And we can break this down even more. I mean, think of it this way. If your system is pretty young, under 8 years old, you're almost always just going to repair it. No brainer. If it's getting old, say over 12 years, and you're having all sorts of different parts fail, yeah, it's time to replace. It's that tricky middle zone, that 8 to 12-year window where things get fuzzy. And that's the sweet spot for using that $5,000 rule to help you make the smart financial call.
And let's be real for a second about the money involved, because it's a huge deal. A common, simple repair might be a few $100. Annoying, but manageable. But a major failure, like that compressor we talked about, you could be looking at $2,500. And a full replacement, well, that's a whole different level of investment. And this is exactly why catching those little problems early is so critical.
Okay, let's start to wrap this all up. And to do that, I want to bring everything we've talked about right back to your front door. It's time for you to become a detective and start decoding your own home's unique climate.
Because at the end of the day, this whole thing isn't really about San Diego. It was just a great example. The real lesson here is for you to take that idea and look at your own backyard, but with a fresh set of eyes, to really start seeing those invisible forces that are at play right where you live.
So I want you to really think about this. What is your HVAC system up against every single day? Is it fighting humidity? Salt air? Are you in a place with extreme heat or maybe bone-chilling cold? Is it constantly choked with dust or pollen? And don't forget the big ones. How old is that system? And be honest, when was the last time it actually had a checkup?
Look, your home's comfort system has a story. It has a beginning, a middle, and an inevitable end. The real question for you is, after everything we've talked about today, do you know how your story is going to end?